Hi, it's Sandy. Welcome to Ancestry Roads Webcast, where we talk about Appalachian stories. Today's a real short one. We're going to talk about Appalachian locations. So, if you've ever wanted to know what a holler is, you've come to the right place. A few weeks ago, I was on a Zoom call with people from around the United States, and they were talking to me about what I do. And I was telling them about how my passion is to change the narrative of Appalachia. And after we discuss how do you actually pronounce Appalachia and go into the details of where it is and what it is, then a couple people had heard some of the location names and they were confused. They didn't know what it was. And one of them was, what is a holler? When that came up, before I could even have a chance to answer the question, there were about two or three other people coming into the Zoom answering the question. And I might add, they were not answering it correctly. They had all different kinds of ways to describe what a holler was, but none of them were the way that we actually describe it in Appalachia. So that gave me some thought about, let me create a quick little educational webcast here to introduce you to some of the names that we call Appalachian locations. Let's go ahead and dig in. So again, the ways that we describe our areas when in Appalachia really come from the immigrants who came here, who first populated the area. Mostly the Scots Irish is where we inherited our English Appalachian dialect from. And a lot of times you'll notice that we use the same type of phrases and words to describe things as the Scots do. And the big question is always, how do you pronounce Appalachia? Well, I always tell people that it depends. It depends on if you're living there, you're always going to say Appalachia. And most people who don't live there are going to say Appalachia. You will notice sometimes in the southern part of the United States, they will say Appalachia as well. And if you want more information on the particular dialects and why we say the things we say and how we pronounce things, check out the Appalachian dialects link that I have here for a different webcast that we did that explains it all. And then where is Appalachia? The white on this map basically shows the general area of Appalachia from the north to the south. It follows the Appalachian Mountains, not completely. It goes and spreads off west and east a little bit, but for the most part, it does follow the Appalachian Mountain range. Okay, so what's a holler? So a holler is going to be that small area between the mountains. The houses could be built, as it shows in this picture, right in the middle. Most of the time, though, on hollers, they're kind of built on both sides of the ridge, of the mountain ridge that you see. And the reason why we say holler is because you could holler from one side to the other to your neighbor. And a lot of people laugh and they think this is funny even to this day. But remember, this term came out a long time ago. This was before Alexander Graham Bell came up with the phone. This is way before Apple showed us the iPhone and how we can text and find people. So when we use the word holler, we're saying that basically back in the day, people used to holler, yell at the others to get their attention. A gap. This is really, really common if you do hike the Appalachian Trail. This is a low spot or along the ridge or a little mountain pass. If you notice in the little picture, there's a hiker going towards the mountains. It's a tiny, tiny path. It's not going to be this really big full road usually. It's just a path that cuts through the mountain range. Cove. If you've ever been to the Great Smoky Mountains and you know Caves Cove, that is really a popular place in Appalachia. And a cove is going to be this valley of where people live and go to work and shop, surrounded by the mountain range. Branch. Now, this is an interesting one. Some people I know up and down the East Coast, whether you're in Appalachia or not, will use the word branch, but I don't find it said too often outside of the East Coast, except for in areas around Texas. But what we mean by branch is pretty much a small stream. And this This one definitely came over from the Scots Irish, and it probably originated because their streams would go off into two different locations, so two different branches. So that's kind of the idea of where the branch is. So you have learned the holler, the gap, the cove, and the branch for locations within Appalachia. And that pretty much brings us to an end of this webcast. Thanks for joining, and see you next time.